So the shooting that happened in that school where 20 children were shot and 6 teachers was horrific. And people are now looking at the reasons why this white male did what he did. They're looking at the psychological factors or what maybe could have driven him. Maybe his upbringing or something like that. But it's funny that when there's someone who has a certain ethnicity, like an African American or Korean guy or a Muslim, that they are always, people are less inclined to look at those factors of psychological factors, but more at, they are less surprised about it. Even though white males have a lot of massacres on their name. For example, when Shu Hyu Cho killed 32 people at Virginia Tech, pundits instantly declared that his Korean upbringing had something to do with it. When my idol Hassan went on a shooting rampage at Fort Hood shootings, we heard more about his Muslim faith than anything else. But what's also happening is that people are looking at this as some kind of freak act, some kind of exception, some kind of thing that does not fit in society, while it has happened many, many times before. And it was also done with the example from Hitler with the Holocaust. It was seen as an exception, something that doesn't fit. But what people do not realize is how our environment creates these kind of things. This kid who shot those 20 children, he was raised in a world where you're not learned to take self-responsibility for who you are and what goes on inside you, and where there's so much messages about who you should be and what you should do and what you should buy to be better and how you should be a man. I mean, check out those gun ads. So it's such a superficial culture and such a superficial way that people are brought up and the messages they get, and we have resentment in us, anger, jealousy, and there's an inferiority, and often there's no way that children are taught to deal with that. Especially boys are taught to suppress it and to deal with it like a man. And people are not taught to deal with this. We are not even taught to be honest towards ourselves about what goes on in our minds. Just look within families how much anger and resentment and jealousy there is from one member against the other. So why do we find it strange that then things boil up in a person to such an extent that they become in such an unequal position that they can't shoot people like they are just bottles that you're practicing on, and then kill themselves like it's nothing. So it's our society that we have to look at, not about anyone's ethnicity or race or whatever. We have to look at the circumstances that made them able to become who they are and address the circumstances to prevent these things. Not about looking at the afterwards about what may have caused it in this individual's case, but look at this at the society level to create a prevention from these things ever happening. Because if this young man was raised in a community where there's respect, where people are taught to be self-honest, to see the things within their mind and do not let it control them, and where there's no society that's so superficial and where people are so disconnected from each other, when there's value for life and human beings, this child, this man, would not have become who he is. He would not have shot 20 children, and he would not have shot himself. Right now, our society is all about competition, all about competing. Even when commercials promote it, you should do this to look better, you should do that, and then everyone will look at you and whatever. You should that to be a man or that to be a good female. And we are constantly competing, and even in shows like Big Brother, they are showing how human beings are like playing a game with each other and competing. And it's like we don't have value anymore except being consumers. And that exactly is a breeding ground for sociopaths and psychopaths, and it does not surprise me that these things happen at all. So these things will always keep on happening if we do not address the way our society is functioning today. Then people will still not even take responsibility of what goes on in their mind. People will still get these messages from society, will still be made into competitors and competition. And to really not give a shit about life. and it's with us too. I mean, look at what we have. We have fridges full of food, we still say there's nothing to eat. Then we have closets full of clothing and we still say we have nothing to wear. We can go in the bathtub every day with running hot water. We can play on our video games in our entertainment. We can have all the hobbies we want. But at what cost? Can the entire world population do this? No, it requires exploitation. And what does exploitation require for us to feel good about it? Ignorance, not seeing it. And that's exactly what we're doing and what we're made to do. Entertainment is keeping us busy, and we are blinded from the reality behind the products that we buy and use to make ourselves happy. Like iPhones and iPads, created by people slaving away up to 15 hours a day with barely any money, often wanting to kill themselves because of the situation that they are in. I'm talking about sweatshop workers, and they are giving cheap labor so the companies here can sell the products and make profit from it. Then we buy it, but we do not look at where it comes from. It's all hidden. It's like the external, it reflects the internal. Inside of ourselves, we are not looking where things come from. We do not take responsibility for it. And outside of ourselves, we also do not look where things come from and take responsibility for it. The waste it creates. What it would mean if all people on the globe would have what we have. Can it be sustainable? What is actually needed to create this kind of culture that we have today? A lot of exploitation and a lot of inequality, a lot of waste products, and a lot of damaging of nature. It also needs a lot of superficialness and people to desire those products and feel inferior and not happy enough, so that they keep buying more and more. So it's really time to take a look at our society, because this is what creates the atrocities. And it's not supported, it's not just exceptions that are happening. You know, in Hitler's time, that abuse was supported by a population who consciously kept a blind eye and did what the law said, and they just followed. Even the church never excommunicated Hitler, never said anything bad. The Times and the Guardian, the papers, what did they report about? They reported out, oh, the streets are safe. They reported out the positive things, and they blocked out the horrors that were happening to the Jews and to handicapped people and gay people, and what was happening in concentration camps, the violence on the streets and in the homes towards the Jews, to eradicate them from society. And we can keep being blind, but the fact is our world's not going to get better if we keep being blind. And our internal state is not going to get any better. And they're going to prescribe people more and more pills to try and make them feel happier. And then label more and more behavior that's logical if you look at our society, that people actually start getting depressed and stuff. And I'm not surprised, and people are more labeled as, you know, you have that mental illness, you have that, instead of looking at the cause. And that it's actually really normal to see that this is all fucked up. That it's actually abnormal to feel good about it, to feel happy, and then within that society only chase for your own happiness and ignore what is making you able to have that happiness, which is often temporary. It requires you to ignore the world and ignore the reality and what's really inside of your mind. And I mean, the media is not going to remind you of it. You will have to actually remind yourself by being self-honest towards yourself. Because the media will keep on telling you that you can use that product to make yourself look better, because you should feel bad if you have like wrinkles and you're not pretty, you know, you have to compete with other females, so that product, you should buy that, or this or that, whatever. Just one example. So the change that we are looking for is in our society, and if we do not change that, such atrocities like the shooting will keep on happening. Don't be surprised.